Okay. So Kevin, you once mentioned to me this idea of making progress and moving the needle. So just tell me what that's about.
Essentially making constant progress towards whatever your goal happens to be. So I wrote a blog on this, I think 3 weeks ago. And it was I was coming back to this, to my business here after a year of studying a master's. And I was like, I need to get back into this, but I only have so much time, but I can give an hour a day. And that's not a lot of time, but if it's consistent, if it's not an hour when I feel like it, or an hour some evenings when I'm not too tired, if it's kind of the first hour of every day, after morning routine, say, but it's an early hour in the day that I know is pretty much, I've never been interrupted at that time. I've got a consistent 5 hours a week, or 7, and I'm working it out at the moment, but it's at least 5. And I usually get more done on the weekends, but I'm a little more forgiving with myself. And that moves, it's not the speedometer on a car dashboard, even though it's kind of what the needle looks like. It's more like the mileometer. You're getting closer to your destination with each bit of work you do. And so many people's efforts kind of fall by the wayside when it's not deliberate and it's not focused time. But if you schedule out and protect like an hour a day, even a half an hour a day, you will make progress towards whatever your goal is.
What do you think would be the main things that would distract people and knock them off their course, so they might slip up and not put that 1 hour in?
A few things. So let's say inconsistency is the main umbrella of what will do it. You have to be able to be consistent with it. The things that would lead you to be inconsistent are trying to say that time that you're going to spend every day is after dinner, an hour after dinner every day. And that's not too bad, but that will vary so much. Dinner could end early, late. It could be dinner out. It might have been a huge pasta dinner and you got too much of a food coma going on to get it done. And so then other things, if the morning does tend to be the best time, but maybe you oversleep, or you need to sleep more. Like, you can't really do this if you're waking up exhausted and can't focus in the morning either. So it's not just about where you put that, let's say, hour. It's not just about where you put it, but it's being consistent with it and being fresh at that time. But then if you can do that, you'll start to see progress. The progress is encouraging. The encouragement keeps you going. That makes better progress, makes better encouragement. It's just inconsistency and the myriad ways that inconsistencies can crop up is what causes it to fail. But I mean, if you fail, try another time. Try harder. It does require a little bit of self-discipline, but it's a goal you want to follow is the whole point. So the self-discipline isn't that hard.
So would it be that idea that if you did slip up, then climb back on the bicycle and get going again, and don't allow just one slip up? So kind of go easy on yourself. If you,
exactly it.
You miss out on that 1 hour, then
everyone's their own worst boss, I think. Like most people would never treat an employee the way they tend to treat themselves on their own goals and their negative self-talk. And you just have to learn to be forgiving, and that you will be sick someday, or you will just have you might do your hour and get nothing done because you just too much else going on in your brain. That takes back to doing the mindfulness practice. You might want to slot that in before you start the hour. But it's just getting back on the horse. If you're always moving the needle, the mileometer, you're going to get there. As long as your target isn't a moving target. If you're always moving towards the promised land, say, you will get there. And if the car stalls out, repair it and keep going.
Right. So just another question that occurs to me is, so how in yourself, so you said that this is some of the journey that you've been on as you started to reignite your own business. So how do you feel you've been doing with that? Are you on kind of like, I have this term of streaks of consecutive days of doing this. I'm on like 260 consecutive days with no alcohol, for instance. How have you been doing with your particular endeavor?
So with that hour a day, I track it in a paper journal, a diary. Did I do that hour? And I get a tick, and that's next to a whole bunch of other habits. Like, did I do my stretches? Did I do my meditation later in the day? Did I do evening exercises? And like, I've got a whole. It's messy, but it makes sense to me.
So
and
that that
check
discipline
it on paper by the month, and so I don't know if it's 200 and however many days, because I kind of put that journal away later. It's more for a visual. At the end of the month is how I do it. I'll write kind of a monthly summary, like a reflection on how I was doing. I'll jot down in one place that it was good, bad, or okay, but I don't exactly track hundreds of days. Though I'm always tinkering with how I track habit creation and all this. You asked how I'm doing. I would say pretty well. I missed a couple of mornings last week. I was just feeling exhausted, and you have to mind your health first. I think you have to mind your sleep and your health before anything else, because you can't do good work if you're exhausted, and just sitting at your desk isn't a good use of your time. You have to be doing it well. So it's okay to take a morning or two off if that's what you need. But to avoid that, you should be going to bed on time, and everything feeds back into itself, I guess. All of your habits will create the ecosystem for getting it right.
Yeah, so that idea of holding yourself accountable by monitoring and ticking boxes to say you did these things, that to me sounds like this, again, another habit that is going to help impose the discipline. So it sounds very disciplined. It sounds like you're measuring what you're doing and keeping track of what you're doing. And we've got that very famous Peter Drucker quote of what gets measured gets managed. You're managing that process just simply by measuring it, and even just by ticking boxes.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you can't really hold it in your head, and if you try to, you'll waste time thinking about it. But just ticking something off each day is satisfying.
Right.
Was it Jay Leno or Jerry? I think it was Jerry Seinfeld. He would write jokes every day and tick the boxes that he did it, and eventually, it became a habit, of course, that he would write jokes every day. Whether they're good or bad, it just sort of puts him in the practice of it. And then he couldn't break the streak. And it's the same, so he kept doing it. And it's the same way that like Duolingo or all of these gamified apps encourage you to work. You're like, well, I've done 180 days straight now. I'm definitely going to do it today. I don't want to break that streak. And if you think about it, you're like, what is the streak? It's a bunch of pixels on the phone. Is that all it is? And you're like, no, it's a promise to yourself. And that is a vote for the person you want to be. Gives self-confidence, I guess. Whereas if you're always missing it, you start to feel down on yourself about not delivering promises to yourself. The ticking a box just helps you get there, I guess.
So it kind of triggers the reward centers of the brain in some way, that you've done a good job.
Yeah, it's a tiny dopamine hit to tick the box. You can also tie that to real reward. Like if this 30-day month I get 25 ticks, or whatever numbers you want to put on it, I will have a takeaway or eat out at a nice restaurant, or I will buy whatever you're thinking of. Like tie actual rewards to it as well is a good way of doing it as well.